you can save somebody's life with this stuff. You can. You clearly can do it. Okay. Thank you very much.
I think I know everybody here. I'm Ira Sharp, and I had a 15-minute speech that it's going to be 1 minute now. Thanks. Actually, I'm here to introduce Steve Lindley. Steve is a gentleman back who's spoken a couple of times, answered questions tonight. He's an incredible resource. He's from the National City Police Department to the State Department of Justice and the Gun Registration Bureau, and he's now working for Brady. He's tremendously knowledgeable, and he's going to just talk for a few minutes, and he's got something interesting to show you.
So yeah, it's in a Walmart bag, but it's probably one of the most famous objects around, at least here in northern San Diego County. My name is Steve Lindley. I started off with the National City Police Department, with the Department of Justice for years. I ran the Bureau of Firearms for about the last decade. So a lot of the gun laws that we talk about, like GVROs, I helped write that and then implement it. Didn't implement it very well because we didn't get a lot of stuff accomplished in the first couple of years, but we're making up for that now. So we talked about a lot of good stuff. Gun locks. Jim wanted to talk about that because it's fantastic, especially those type of gun locks. Because once you put them on, you forget where the key's at, and pretty much the gun is inoperable. So it's a good thing. But we have something that's developing here in California that even scares me. And again, I did 12 years in National City, so not a whole lot kind of scares me. And that was when the bad National City, not the good National City that it is today. So ghost guns. So a lot of people talk about ghost guns. You hear that a lot, but people want kind of what is a ghost gun? So I'll describe briefly what a ghost gun is under federal law, why it exploded here in California, and the problem that we have now is almost to the point that it's almost uncontrollable, even though California has taken some legislative action against it. So a ghost gun was actually coined by a supervisor at DOJ named Blake Graham. We were in a meeting with Senator De Leon at the time, talking about these lower receivers as a go-around for the assault weapons ban here in California. And Blake, and he's a very good friend of mine, coined, yeah, they're kind of like a ghost gun. And Senator De Leon grabbed onto that, and that's been the term. Unfortunately, Blake didn't copyright that term, or he wouldn't be in law enforcement right now. He'd be a bit richer. But that's how we started talking about ghost guns, and DOJ started talking about ghost guns, ATF talked about ghost guns. But what that really is, it's a receiver, usually a lower receiver of a firearm, and I'll show you here in a second when I do the big unveil. And it's basically, it's only 80% complete. And under federal law, a firearm has to be at least at that 80% component or higher, and once it's at that 80% component or higher, it has to be serialized as a firearm, which then mandates at least a federal background check, or depending on which state you're in, a state background check. And California's California, so we have lots of background check processes. So the entrepreneurs in the gun industry, and oftentimes they react very quickly to our legislation. Then we have to pass other legislation. That's why we're always a little bit behind them. They came up with, well, if it's 80% or below, then we're just going to sell them as pieces of plastic. And the first go around for that was to get around the California's assault weapons ban. So the lower receivers of let's say an AR-15, which some of you have your shirts on. So there's a portion that's considered the lower receiver, and that's what they were making into ghost guns at the time to get around California's laws. They're making them out of aluminum, sometimes out of plastic, but mainly out of aluminum. And you need to drill out a large portion of that in order to get it to be a receiver, which needs to be serialized. That was a way around California's assault weapons ban. Not only the 1989, but the 1999 and the 2002 and the 2016 assault weapons ban. But that was mainly for AR-15s. And it took a great deal of machining to actually take out that other 20%. Things have changed dramatically. If you look at ATF tracing data going back the last decade, it's very rare that an assault weapon is used in normal crime. They're used like 9 out of 10 of all mass shooters use an assault weapon. but that's a small percentage of the total gun deaths here in California or in the nation. Handguns, however, is the main type of crime gun. If you think about watching TV, besides the big shootouts, most crime, someone's going to rob a bank, someone's going to rob a jewelry store, someone's going to rob a 7-Eleven, someone's going to shoot somebody on the street. They normally do it with a handgun. And why? It's smaller, cheaper, more concealable, and at close range, just as deadly as most other firearms. So when the industry started changing the ghost gun manufacturing away from assault weapons into handguns, that's the main problem. So I was asked by Never Again California to go to the Del Mar Gun Show back in December. And I've been going to gun shows since the early 90s as a law enforcement officer, obviously going to them both in California and outside of California while I was at DOJ. And I was never really too concerned. Yes, they're arms bazaars, but they were regulated and wasn't too concerned about what was going on, especially with my DOJ agents there. We're going to take care of things. I'll speak French. This scared the shit out of me when I went to Del Mar and I saw what the industry was doing now. Because if you look at, and this is what I bought, I have pictures, but this is the slide and barrel assembly for a Glock pistol. Basically, it's a Glock clone. It's actually not made by Glock. It's made in Dayton, Nevada, but it is just as high quality. Now, I would pass this around, but because of the whole coronavirus thing, people freak out. But I will put it up there for people to look at. But this is, I'll slide this in. This is high quality. This is not a piece of junk. What you can also buy with the same kit, and when you go to the gun store, or I'm sorry, to the gun show, and you look at these ghost guns, they're put together with zip ties and rubber bands, so you can see how it looks completed. But then you get the whole completed kit, and that includes the trigger assembly. And just think Lego sets. Okay, my daughter is 11. We play Legos all the time still. The Lego sets that she gets are probably harder to put together than this because, again, Glock made these very specific, made them to be put together easily, and they're cloning them. You have the slide assembly for the gun, and this is a drop-in. You just put it together. Again, you snap it together like you would a Lego set, and you drop it into the gun. Next thing is you have the firing pin assembly. Now, I'm completely unmechanical. I can't change a tire. That's why I have AAA. But I can actually put this together because, again, it's a Lego set, and it's very easy to follow not only the written instructions, but the video instructions. Then part of the kit, you get the sander, and you get the drills in order to drill out your kit. So everything is here for you to do it. You need a home drill, you need a drum drill. And all you need to do, and this comes in this handy dandy little jig, you have these little holes right here, they're kind of small. That's the spacers for you to drill out, makes it very easy. Again, I can do this. And about 2 years ago, DOJ bought, when I was at the Bureau of Firearms, we bought some of these. We looked at for the most unmechanical people in our bureau to put these together to see if they would function. I was elected as one of them. I was able to put mine together, and I even fired it. So this is what would be considered the lower receiver and the 80% of a firearm. All you have to do here is snap off these two areas right here. These two areas right here, and there's this really cheap piece of plastic here that you could probably just pry off yourself, and you're able to drop all those pieces in, and you're good to go for a firearm. It has a place here where they'll say it's for a serial number, but that's actually a reinforcing piece of metal in order for the frame doesn't flex if you put one of your cool little lasers or cool little flashlights in there that all tactical people need for their home protection. So the thing that really scared me about this is not only the quality, but you can buy one of these for $400. A Glock pistol right now is about $650. So I always hate to say this because it really ages me. Back in my day, if you wanted to get a unserialized, untraceable firearm, you're going to pay thousands of dollars for it. And it was far more expensive than a regular firearm. Now, they're cheap. And with this undermines every single California law that we've passed dealing with background checks and access to firearms for the last 25 years. So everything we've done, even the GVROs, mean nothing. Why? Because you can have a GVRO and you can go buy this. So I went to the Del Mar Fair and I was flabbergasted. I wrote my little report, and then I was encouraged to go to the Orange County one. And I laid an egg out of that one because that was even worse. So I went up to Ventura, which was the next one. And again, these are all in state property, so that was one of our concerns. And Ventura wasn't as bad, just because it was small. But that's where I bought this for $400. It took 90 seconds to purchase this. If you buy a regular handgun, it's probably going to take you about 30 minutes. And most of the time was me counting out the $400 in $20 bills and the clerk counting out the $400 in $20 bills. I asked for a receipt. He said that was funny. I asked for information about, hey, how do I put this together? He says, go to our website. Go, how do I get this legal? How do I put a serial number? He goes, talk to DOJ. And it was off to do another business. 90 seconds. And I watched I can't say store, the table for about 20 minutes before I made my move. And about 7, possibly 8, because I couldn't see if there was cash at the park. 7 of these moved off the tables in 20 minutes. And after I bought mine, that was about the same thing. I watched for it, they would come quickly. And in California, in order to purchase a handgun, you have to be how old? 21 years old. I guarantee there were people, again, men, that bought these that were under 21. I suspect that at least 2 of them were under 18 years old. Because there's no controls in these, because they're not guns, right? Just pieces of plastic. This is going to be our biggest problem here in California that we need to solve, and because it undermines everything that we've done. And the problem has started here as an earthquake, and the tsunami is going eastbound across the nation. So unfortunately, other states, Pennsylvania, their attorney general, their governor took action and just banned these altogether. He said, we're not going to do what California did because we have different legislation. We tried to ban these back in 2016. The Assembly and the Senate passed it. Governor Brown vetoed it. So we tried some other avenues which will work, but they don't come into effect until 2025. By that time, I mean, there's going to be millions of these in California that's completely untraceable. According to ATF, about 30% of all the firearms that they're collecting in California are ghost guns. According to LAPD, about 40% of the guns that they're collecting are considered ghost guns because there's no serial numbers on that. When I was in law enforcement and overall in DOJ, it's very rare to actually get a firearm that the serial number has been removed. So again, these are completely untraceable. There's no age restrictions. There's no firearm safety certificate. There's no background check for the state of California. There's no background check for the federal government. And we have no idea where these, or who are owning these and what they're doing with them. And they're handguns, and they're high quality handguns. So we're going to see an epidemic here of shootings because these are cheap and easy to get. Or we're going to see an epidemic of suicides because people who have a GVRO or have a mental health issue, if they want to kill themselves, our background check system would stop that. It's not going to stop this. So how long do you think it takes to put this together with a Dremel tool?
15 minutes.
Because I'm awesome. One of our brand new interns, she did it in about 8 minutes, but she had more talent than I did. I really think my 11-year-old daughter, if she had the instructions and watched the video, could do this in about 10 to 15 minutes because she used a Lego Mania. And that's all this is. This is an adult Lego set with deadly outcomes. That's going to be our biggest issue now. So we talked to Assemblymember Gibson, who's been running the bills for several years in ghost guns, and he doesn't want to take on the absolute ban on these because he did that and he got vetoed by Governor Brown. Governor Newsom is not going to veto this. So we're going directly to the governor's office. We bypass other legislators, we bypass the AG's office. We're just going to go to Governor Newsom, which we have done. And I'm not just saying Brady, this is, we've convinced Giffords is on board with this. Moms Demand Action is on board with this. Every town is on board with this, and they understand what this means for California and the rest of the nation. So this is going to be our top priority. Because if we don't fix this, everything that's been done the last 25 years, unfortunately, pretty much meaningless.
So do you have any questions?
I have one. So, Steve, these are made out of plastic, obviously very high quality
Yes.
plastic. And these as ghost guns are very different than 3D guns, as sometimes
Correct.
people hear about. I know that 3D guns are not reliable always in how they shoot. Talk to us about these. Is this every bit as good as a metal gun?
Well, so I have an older version of a Glock that I carried for 27 years in law enforcement, and I brought it out of the mothball. And the quality of that Glock, which was made by Glock, is actually the one made in Austria, not here in Smyrna, Georgia. I can't really tell the difference between the plastic. I'm sure if you cut it up and you have some scientists look at it, they can tell. But with my flexing and everything else, I can't tell the difference. This is high quality. Now, would I go into combat or into law enforcement with a gun that I put together? No. I'm a moron when it comes to this stuff. I'm just not going to do that. I want it to be made by a real manufacturer. But if I want to go shoot somebody in the street, or if I want to kill myself or have other types of firearms, this would be indistinguishable. Besides, it has no serial number. So this is different than 3D guns. Someday 3D printed guns are going to be an issue, but that's based on the technology of the material that's used in the printer. The printer and the schematics are good. It's just that the plastic that can be melted and then cooled down and used. This is high quality, and there's lots of guns that use plastic frames, and the technology has been used for about 30 years now, maybe about 35. So this is 35 years of technology. So if you think about the cell phone that you had 35 years ago, the one that was in the car that was like a brick, and what you have today, difference, you know what I mean? Or just think about the pages in the 90s compared to what we have today. So this is the technology of 35 years that's getting us.
Where did you say those were made?
So this company called Polymer 80, the company's out of Dayton, Nevada. So.
Are there competitors?
There are. I think they corner the market in these. They have a bit of a following, and they're not ashamed to put their names on it. So when Brady was looking at different legal action about a year ago, no one wanted to put their names on it. These guys, they're proud of it. And they're basically saying, what you going to do about it? Oh, that's right. If you wanted to do a stocking stuffer, you could buy these online and have them delivered to your house because it's not a firearm. Only thing is they'll probably have a credit card and a receipt for the for the transportation, so we can maybe trace that in law enforcement. But cash at a gun show, cash and carry 90 seconds, this is going to be a problem for us.
Do you know if gun stores are being more careful about making sure that whoever buys it gets
So that's
reports to the DOJ and gets their...
So that's my next kind of little area to find out about. There's a number of stores. There's one in National City that only sells ghost guns and ghost gun parts. He's been raided twice by ATF and once by DOJ. He's kind of anti-law enforcement now, but he sells a lot of these. Not a lot of these are being sold by regular gun dealers because it's kind of competing with the regular business, but that's our next avenue is to find out how big of a problem is this at regular gun stores. Now your big ones, Sportsman's Warehouse, Turner's Outdoorsman, Big Five, they're not going to be selling this stuff. Mainly because of liability, because they figure that someone's going to put it together, do something stupid with it, and they'll be sued over, or not put it together well and it blows up in their hands. But yeah, we need to look at what's being sold at brick and mortar stores and what's being sold at some of the licensed firearm dealers to see if that's as big as a problem as it is at the gun shows. But gun shows are rampant for this right now. Yes, sir.
So, isn't the bigger problem that there's so many loopholes in our laws that allow that gun to not have? If you don't put the serial number, there's no consequences, right? And that's a big loophole in the law.
It is a big loophole. It's a loophole that we could have fixed back in 2016. Jerry Brown, and I mean, I was his bodyguard for a while, and driving him around and have to deal with him. He's a distinct personality, and he had a big issue with us when it came to firearm issues. He goes, where is the public safety impact? So he would not sign anything unless there was a public safety impact. Or what we had to do was we had to give him a couple of good bills, and a couple of softball bills for him to veto. 2016, he didn't give him any softballs. We gave him all real issues, and this was the softball he decided to veto because he didn't think it was a big enough problem at the time and felt that we could deal with it other ways. I'm not going to argue with that because hindsight is 20/20, but that was our opportunity to stop this. And we wouldn't have had this problem. We didn't, and now we have a problem. So 2017, 2018, we passed different legislation, but that legislation won't come into effect, and the systems won't be in effect until 2025.
Is there enough metal in there somewhere to set off a metal detector?
Yes, so that actually is a concern, and that's not so much a concern for state law, but for federal law. And that's why they put that reinforcing piece of metal in it right there. Again, it's for reinforcing. If you look at a real Glock, that's actually where the one of the serial numbers is. But that is enough to set off a metal detector. So they won't be able to, you couldn't get the frame on, but other parts of the firearm are metal, the upper, the internal portions of it, so that would set it off. But that's going to be a difference for some of these 3D printed guns because under California and federal law, it has to have a piece of metal in there to set off a metal detector. You think people are actually going to put that piece on? No. I forget the movie that Clint Eastwood was in. He played a Secret Service agent, and the killer was making this plastic gun. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. But we have to solve this one first, and then go fight that one in a couple of years. But that's our next big one. That's going to be the get around for this. And they're always ahead of us. So again, I could talk for literally days about these questions. I'm not going to today.
Wait, you have one more question.
I've told not to mess with Roseanne, and I've learned not to mess with Roseanne.
I just wanted to ask, how can we help you in your effort right now?
So right now, the various gun violence prevention groups, and again, I've been working with them for 12 years. So when I say, holy shit, Batman, we have a problem, they kind of listened, and when they looked at it too, they said the same thing. So we've partnered together. We came up with some great legislative language. Thanks to the Giffords Law Center, they're very good at writing bills. Brady is very good at pushing the bills through, and moms demand action. When we need 100 people in red shirts, they show up. So. We have a good strategy. It's just a matter of making it happen. So there's going to be a time here in short order that we might want calls or emails to the governor's office saying we need to have this happen, or to a particular legislator, or to a committee saying, you know what, this is an issue. And we kind of need a full court press from all the groups in getting that done. So.
And let me just also add that we have 2 city council members here tonight, both Solana Beach and Del Mar, who've already passed resolutions against these issues.
So this is our biggest problem. So I know Roseanne wants to end this somewhat on time. I will be available here for questions as long as you would like. If you want to take photographs of this, again, this is the most publicized ghost gun probably, definitely in California, if not the United States. But this is scary. Like I said, I worked sexual predators for a long time. I worked homicide for a long time. I've been in the Bureau of Firearms. Not much has really scared me about my daughter's future. This does, because it undermines everything that we've done. And anybody can get this at any age, build it up, shoot and kill anybody else or themselves. So it really undermines our gun violence regulatory system as well.
So let me thank all of our speakers. Steve came the longest, and Jill spent the longest amount of time. And Jim, I'm glad you didn't have to put on the smags, but you did a great job. Thank you very much.